Just wait a few seconds to see, let some people in on our meeting. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about an interesting topic: foreign control, ownership, or influence, commonly known as FOCI. It's definitely become more important as we go through this. You'll kind of get a kind of clear understanding, sort of as why. But let's just kind of jump into it. Uh, we're the Apex Accelerator. We're administered by the Monterey County Business Council, and we're funded through the Department of Defense. The program's been around since 1985, and there are actually 96 Apex Accelerators across the United States and in U.S. territories, and there's 7 within the state of California. I'll show you a map here in a second. One thing I'll share too here at the beginning is just the fact that this presentation is being recorded. You'll receive a copy of the presentation, link to the recording, and then I'm also going to email you a document that I'll be talking about later on in the presentation. The mission of all Apex Accelerators basically is just promote economic growth and help to create employment opportunities in the local markets that they serve. And we do that by facilitating your access to the government marketplace, whether it's federal, state, or local. Here's the map that I mentioned. So we're the teal area in the middle of the state here, this Central Coast, Central Valley area. If you're in on this webinar from one of the other colored areas, you can reach out to us and we'll refer you to our colleagues at one of the other Apex Accelerators. They all have excellent teams and are willing to help you out with your needs in government contracting. So these are the services basically that all Apex Accelerators across the U.S. provide to their clients. First and foremost, it's confidential counseling, learning about your business, what you've done in the past, what are you currently working on, and then on your goals for government contracting. So with that, there'll be some pre-award assistance. We'll teach you how to go out, find contract opportunities that are out there in the marketplace, help you review the notices, the solicitations, whatever they're called. They go by different names, but oftentimes when you first look at one, it can be kind of mind-blowing that they might be 100-page document and stuff. So we'll kind of help you navigate through that. Capability statements is basically a promotional piece that has been developed for the federal marketplace, but you're seeing it being adopted a lot with the state, and it's just a great way for you to present your business to any potential customers, teaming partners, etc. So we can talk to you about those as well. Post-award assistance. Conflicts do arise, so we kind of help you understand how to maybe deal with something like that. Talk a little bit about debriefs, what those are, how they can benefit your business, and then protest, basically whether that makes sense for your business or not. The process that's involved with it. It's something too that if you are going to do it, typically we're recommending that you get legal counsel to help you in that process. Outreach events, there are events that take place, and if we feel that it's an event that might benefit your company, we'll push that information out to you. Oftentimes at those events, if we're there, oftentimes not only are we talking about who we are and what we do, but oftentimes we're doing some training like we're doing here today, but in a live format. Bid matching. Bid matching is a service that is provided by all Apexes. And basically we use third-party vendors that have systems that basically will go out and we work with you, create a profile on your business, and then upload your business's information into our vendor system. Their system will go out and literally search thousands of websites where government opportunities are posted, and then any matches to the opportunity with your profile then are just emailed directly to you. So it saves you a lot of time and effort. And then oftentimes you'll find opportunities from an agency that maybe you hadn't even considered as a potential customer. So it's a great tool. Certification programs will help you navigate those, talk to you about whether they make sense for your business or not. There's a different ones, woman-owned, service disabled, veteran-owned, 8A, hub zone, etc. So again, we talk to you about whether they make sense and then help you understand clearly the requirements to get certified, the supporting documents that you'll need to provide, those types of things. One of the great things is there's no fees or commitments to you and participating with us where your tax dollars at work. Now I'd like to just kind of give a brief plug for a strategic partner of ours, the Central California, well, not just Central California, but basically small business development centers, SBDCs. We work predominantly with the uh, Central California network, but some of the counties we cover actually fall within what's called the Northern California network. But SBDCs basically are a great resource to help you, especially if you're kind of a new business in developing a business plan, kind of developing maybe a marketing plan, help you maybe sit down and do some financial number crunching so you can kind of clearly understand how much money it's going to take to get your business up and running and then successful. Social media has become a big part of doing business today. So they've got experts that can help with that. So oftentimes if we're meeting with a client in our intake and kind of learn more about who they are and what they do, we'll kind of really recommend either A, you're not ready for us yet, go work with the SBDC, or we'll say, why don't you work with us in tandem with them? We think we'll get to your goals quicker that way. So here's our learning objectives today. Again, FOCI, foreign ownership, control, or influence. We'll talk a little about understanding what that is. We'll talk about facility clearances, FCL. You'll be seeing these acronyms here, so remember that. FCL is facility clearance, and analysis, kind of the things that government goes through and looking and asking questions about your business. And then we'll talk about FOCI and how it relates to the SBIR, STTR programs. And then lastly, we'll talk about mitigation. So that's actually a good thing, because in the beginning, it may seem like if something comes up in some of this analysis, that it won't necessarily basically kick you out of the participating on a government contract. You'll see what I'm talking about. So foreign investment, and I'm going to be reading some of these, but because again, they're important and they're not my words, they're actually from, say, the government. But it's foreign investment can play an important role in maintaining the vitality of the U.S. industrial base. Therefore, it's the policy of the U.S. government to allow foreign investment consistent with the national security interest of the United States. So that's written by the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, the DCSA, and they're the ones that basically have put together these policies, and they do the analysis, those types of things. So you'll see this a lot in this presentation, the DCSA, Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency. The policy allowing foreign investment, however, must be balanced with the national security interest. Therefore, companies operating under FOCI are ineligible for certain government contracts. So we'll see more about that, but basically this whole FOCI concept is all about protecting the national security interests of the United States government. And oftentimes, we kind of think of it just as Department of Defense related stuff, but it's actually applies to a lot of areas that you wouldn't even think about. So FOCI, just defined, foreign owned, controlled, and influence, is a company. A company is considered to be operating under FOCI whenever a foreign interest has the power, direct or indirect, whether or not exercised, and whether or not exercisable to direct or decide matters affecting the management or operations of that company in a manner which may result in unauthorized access to classified information or may adversely affect the performance of classified contracts. So basically, why is FOCI important? The concept. Two primary cases. A contractor cannot obtain facility clearance while under FOCI. So again, if you have foreign ownership in your company or foreign control influence, you won't be able to get a security clearance. So again, it'll prevent you performing any kind of requirement on a contract that requires FCL facility clearance. And then there's a new law that requires kind of a similar FOCI-like analysis for SBIR STT awards. So that's why it's important to kind of understand why this is important. This part is interesting. It's pending regulation. So back in 2020, the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, instructed the Department of Defense, the DoD, to expand FOCI analysis to all DoD contracts and subcontracts over $5 million. And again, if you look at the next bullet point, is regardless of whether the contract requires facility clearance or not. So you think of, say, construction projects. Well, a lot of construction projects are over $5 million. So they're saying that sometime down the road, this will be implemented, that that all companies and subcontractors that have these larger contracts will have to go through an analysis. It says, unlike facility clearances, Department of Defense will not automatically prohibit awards to companies under FOCI. And basically what that means basically is that, you might have foreign ownership of your company. It doesn't necessarily make you ineligible for a contract, but they still want to kind of look at and understand the level of that foreign ownership, control, etc. Like it says here, FOCI is to be considered in responsibility analysis, and this responsibility analysis is important. So up here it says pending regulations, or this last bullet point says it still hasn't been implemented by the DoD. So again, back in 2020, Congress said, Department of Defense, you're going to apply this new standard at all DoD contracts and subcontracts over $5 million. We'll go through this analysis, but it still hasn't happened yet. When it'll happen, we don't know for sure. Some people have been saying that, when I was doing some research, that by the end of this year, it'll happen. But as we've are seeing with Congress being as dysfunctional as it is, and we don't know whether the government will be funded in a few days or not. It could be another year before this happens, but it's coming. So, so facility clearance analysis. So first thing is, again, you think of FOCI is, what is a foreign? So foreign interest means any foreign government, agency of a foreign government, or representative of a foreign government, any form of business enterprise or legal entity organized, chartered, or incorporated under the laws of any country of the United States or its territories, and any person who is not a citizen or national of the United States. So that's what the definition in 32 CFR 117.3 of what foreign interest means. So ownership. So when they look at the analysis of ownership, includes persons or entities who hold any kind of legal title to an equity stake in the contractor, the company, and has what's called a beneficial ownership of any equity stake in a contractor. So what is, you ask, well, what's a beneficial owner? mean? It says a beneficial owner is one who ultimately owns or controls the company, the contractor. And as an example here, it says if equity stake in the contractor is owned by an LLC, the LLC's owners would be beneficial owners of the contract. So with control, control analysis looks at those with decision-making powers over the contractor or over the classified work that the contractor is conducting. So it may include boards of directors. So it could be that or any of these officers, CEO, president, treasurer, other management officials or executive team members, even if not corporate officers per bylaws or operating agreement. So again, you could have a board of directors of 10 people, but you may have 1 or 2 people that are foreign nationals on that board. And do those 2 individuals, have enough influence in the decision-making process of how the company is operated that it could create an issue. Remember that the Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency will look at both direct and indirect control. So influence. So with the influence analysis includes, but is not limited to the review of, the company or the contractor's ownership of other foreign entities themselves, the contractor's percentage of revenue generated from foreign sources, or the contractor's indebtedness to foreign creditors, and employment or consulting roles with foreign entities held by key personnel. And one of the things when we look at towards the end here, we'll look at what's called mitigation. It's okay, and the government understands that it's okay to have, foreign participation in US based businesses, but again, they want to make sure that it's actually analyzed to ensure that it doesn't impact negatively the national security of the United States. So with FCL, facility clearance analysis, the review is based upon a contractor's responses to this standard form 328. And when I send this presentation, I'll actually send you a form and you'll see what all these 10 questions are. And when they ask the questions too on this form 328, if you answer yes to any of them, then they want you to explain it in a supporting document. So the form has 10 questions, and these are just some examples of the 10 questions. And like I said, you'll see what all the 10 questions are when I send you the presentation. It says, does your organization directly or indirectly through your subsidiaries and or affiliates own 10% or more of any foreign interest? And then, does your organization have any contracts, agreements, understandings, or arrangements with a foreign person? And during the last fiscal year, did your organization derive 5% or more of its total revenues or net income from any single foreign person? So those are just kind of examples of the question. And again, if you answer yes, doesn't mean you automatically wouldn't be able to get facility clearance. It just means you need to kind of explain what it is. So again, if you're say selling products or services to say a French or a UK based company who we consider our allies, then it wouldn't create any problem. But if it's with some of these other countries that we'll talk about here in a second, then that's when the red flags come up. So they look at what's called a 7-factor test. And I'll go through the 7 factors. The FOCI reviews are comprehensive and evaluated on a case-by-case basis. So like I was mentioning earlier, if you're working with foreign companies or you're generating sales overseas, that's absolutely fine, but they want to make sure that it's analyze, research, etc. So here's the 7 factors. Does your company have any kind of record of espionage against U.S. targets or the country of where you're been selling a lot of products or services to? Is there a record of enforcement and or engagement in unauthorized technology transfer? Is the type and sensitivity of the classified information in question? And what is the source, nature, and extent of foreign ownership, control, or influence? And then the last are record of compliance with pertinent U.S. laws, regulations, and contracts. What is the nature of any relevant bilateral and or multilateral security and information exchange agreements? So they want to know all that. And then ownership and control in whole or part by a foreign government. So is it a government that owns part of your company, or is it another company? If it's another company, does that foreign government own that foreign company, which then owns part of your company? Those are the kinds of things that they're looking for. So facility clearance requirements a little bit different than actual FOCI. So like it says here, a contractor under foreign ownership, control, or influence cannot be granted a facility clearance. So that's important to know that it's a contractor without a facility clearance cannot begin work on a contract requiring a facility clearance. And then a contractor with a facility clearance may or may not be allowed to continue that status while negotiating mitigation measures with defense contract or counterintelligence security agency, the DCSA. Again, you can be going through this mitigation process that I'm going to talk about here in a second, but you can't start actually work and obtain a facility clearance until you go through that mitigation analysis with the DCSA to actually then go to the next step. So SBIR, STTR analysis is real similar. I'm just kind of mentioning it because several of SBIR disclosure questions will address only countries of concern, not all foreign countries. So with SBIR, STTR programs, they're looking at, is the foreign ownership, influence, etc. Is it from China, Russia, Iran, North Korea? Basically are well-known adversaries. But the State Department, as you can see here, can always add more. So as the world changes, that could change as well. So, but those typically are the ones. A few of the disclosure questions are broader, so someone needs to be careful. But again, if you have somebody on your team, like even with this, you'll see with this next one, they'll actually look at individuals. So here it says several disclosure questions require disclosure of relationships held by a covered individual. So a covered individual is someone who contributes in a substantive, meaningful way to the scientific development or execution of a research and development project and is designated as a covered individual by the Federal Research Agency concerned. So again, if you have a consultant or a key member of your team that's critical to the research that's being conducted under the SBIR STTR grant, that individual is a covered individual. And again, if they're from one of those countries of concern, then it raises red flags and more research is done. Or it could just be that they'll just in a mitigation process say that person has got to go. We just can't allow this individual who's a North Korean scientist to be part of this project. So under the SBIR Extension Act, an agency cannot make an SBIR STTR award to a company if certain foreign relationships exist, especially with regards to countries of concern. Again, the small business has a parent company in China, as an example, and the relationship in question could interfere with performance, create a risk to national security, or otherwise violate the law. So again, mitigation, this is key because again, when you go and you're answering these questions and you maybe say, yes, there I do have uh, foreign investment or some foreign employees that are working on this project or work for me. You can go through the mitigation process. So DCSA has a well-developed policy of working with contractors to mitigate the identified facility clearance FOCI issues. So their philosophy is basically FOCI rules exist to protect national security, but not to blacklist companies. So again, if it makes sense to have some foreign nationals on your team, maybe they bring some expertise and they come from a country that's in alignment with our national interest, then they would say, yes, you have FOCI, but that's okay. Companies should be allowed to take steps to mitigate FOCI issues and obtain FCLs. So again, DCAA, they want to encourage teaming with companies and individuals that may be from other countries, but they want to make sure that they take a hard look at it. The SBIR policy directive does not include specific direction regarding mitigation, which is a little bit different than how the facility clearance works. So, but again, they'll definitely look into that. So with that, I think, so these are actually some really good links and some references to everything we're talking about today. So you can kind of go to these websites and read it. The bottom two are actually really interesting. They're the YouTube videos. The top one actually is about a half hour long, but it really is eye-opening when you look at this video of what we're talking about today, and you can see how it can apply to something that is not, say, directly Department of Defense related, but could basically, impact our national interests. The second one, the China threat, is much shorter. It's about 7 minutes long, but it kind of goes, talks a little bit about, why this is really important, and then emphasizes that, this is not so much sort of a way to kind of attack like Chinese American individuals or even Chinese individuals per se, but it's more like the threat is coming from the Chinese government who are trying to steal trade secrets, technology, etc., from the U.S. so they can be more competitive in the global marketplace. But certainly there's a fear of global domination that we're seeing out of China. So that's where all this is kind of coming from. Upcoming webinars, we'll be doing on March 7th. Some friends, we won't actually be doing this. Some friends of ours from the GSA will be giving a presentation that we'll be hosting, but it's selling to the GSA and then understanding GSA schedules. So that'll be a good one. And then on March 20th, it's understanding solicitations. So I mentioned earlier that sometimes when you look at a solicitation, it can be 100 pages long and it kind of like, gosh, where do I even start? So it kind of helps you to understand what it is you're looking at, understand that there's different, say, solicitation forms that are used depending on what kind of product or service is being purchased, and then how to, basically navigate your way through that. With that, I will, answer any questions you have. Let's see here. I don't know why, but for some reason, when my chat comes up, it makes it really hard to read. Let me see here. Says, just to be clear, is a person also an entity for FOCI purposes? Uh, how would I put it? Uh, so FOCI is, again, it's foreign ownership, control, or influence. So that it could be that like that individual doesn't really own uh any kind of equity or anything like that to do with, say, the company, but certainly that individual could exercise a lot of control or influence on the direction of what it is that that company wants to do, say, like research, etc. Again, if it's an individual from a country that has been known to engage in a lot of industrial espionage, you might not want that individual on your team for fear that basically they're going to steal trade secrets and sell them to the highest bidder on in the foreign marketplace. And with mitigation, what the government could do is say, we see that you want to do this research, but we see who your team members are, but we have problems with this one individual. You get rid of that individual, then we'll go ahead and, give you the facility clearance or fund the SBIR or something like that. So that's what's nice about the mitigation, like it said there, that they're not out there to blackball people. They just basically want to make sure that our trade secrets are kept secret from people that we don't want to know about them. Is there a way to get a potential foreign employee vetted by this? Yes. So that's that mitigation process. And then, oh, you're saying prior to hiring them. Basically, I would say that the company should be vetting that individual ahead of time. But one thing too is, especially if you look at those videos that I just mentioned, is that it's kind of amazing. And if you follow the news, you've seen stories like this where someone has lived in the United States for 20 years, and then they get caught selling trade secrets to another government. And sadly, sometimes it's USA born and bred people that are for money are selling information to foreign governments. I mean, it does happen, but the whole thing with this is to have a process, a program to try to address that as much as possible to reduce the risk of information being leaked to people we don't want to leak it to. All right, I don't see any other questions, so I'll let you go. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you on March 7th and hear from our colleagues from the GSA.